Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Intermountain Regional GIS monthly webinar series. My name is Heidi Ogle, and I'm a GIS specialist here with the Intermountain Regional Office. This month, we're going to be discussing mobile mapping applications for asset management. And for those of you who aren't so familiar with the term mobile mapping, that really refers to GPS, just now using your smartphone or your mobile device or your tablet. So just think of mobile mapping as GPS for smartphones. Okay, this month we're going to be highlighting Rocky Mountain National Park. They've been doing some great work up there, and we've brought Sean Wignall and Ian Brighton on. They're facilities management specialists up there at Rocky. So we're going to be looking at some of the work they've been doing and really giving them a chance to demo their great stuff. So here's our agenda. First part, I'm just going to provide a little high-level overview of mobile mapping and WebGIS and what that means. We're going to open it up for a very brief question and answer period after that, just to make sure we're all on the same page about mobile mapping and WebGIS. It is a somewhat different platform than what we've been using before, so we just want to make sure we're all on the same page. At that point then, we'll move on to a demo from Sean and Ian at Rocky, and then finally conclude the hour with a discussion, including some question and answer opportunities. Okay, to start this off, this is basically a diagram of the old workflow. This is the old ArcPad workflow specifically, and you've probably used a variation of some sort of this. This workflow works mostly it's kind of a long process that you have to go through in order to get your data from the office out into the field and then back into a working system. So the system is very similar to the Trimble, Pathfinder, and TerraSync workflows, but I'll go through it anyway, just so we're all on the same page. Essentially, what we used to do is we take our pre-existing or legacy data into the field to collect or update that data, or update new data, collect new data, that is. With the Trimble workflow, it was quite the same. We'd create a data dictionary, put it onto a GPS device, and then head out into the field. Then we come back into the office with all that data, and then perhaps differentially correct that data, check it back into a geodatabase, and then clean that data up. With the Trimble workflow, much the same way, we'd use Pathfinder to differentially correct the data, and then transfer that data into either a shapefile or a feature class, and then clean that data up, and then put it into either a project folder or merge it into pre-existing data sets. So really a very time-consuming, labor-intensive process that oftentimes created very large data management problems that we're going to look at here on the next slide. So on the left here is kind of the system that we're looking at right now. We've been in a very disconnected, fragmented, or stovepiped environment where different departments are collecting oftentimes the same exact features. They're just, looking for one little particular thing that's useful for them. But what we're really trying to do is stop doing that and move into this networked services environment. So like I said, the stovepiped environment, it really discouraged data sharing, created a lot of duplicate data, created static or old stale data that you don't even know how useful it is at this point. And over time, that generates a really significant data management problem. And so moving into the networked services environment, what we're really looking to do is encourage everyone to share data. There's no point in every department having their own line for a trail. We can all share the same geometries and then just tailor that data for each individual use case. The idea here is that we have one data set, one master data set that provides a really common operating picture across the service. That data then is dynamic because anyone can go in, anyone who's allowed to go in can go in and update that information and keep that data up to date. So again, one repository for all of the data. That's really the kind of view that we're going for here. Okay, so this new platform, really the idea is that it's designed to empower people to use and create maps of their own. So rather than waiting for your GIS specialist or waiting for the regional office to help you out with the map, this idea is that we're creating a repository where everyone can use this data for their own particular use case. And the way that we do that really is through the attribute table. We use the attribute table as a filter, so we can decide who can view and query that data or who can edit it or what parts of that data they can see or edit. So from this slide here, the idea is that the GIS professional publishes that data up into the cloud, and then that data is available for these different use cases. So in terms of the knowledge workers, that'd be your field crews, people who are going to go out and update that data. Executive access, this would be like, you're planning compliance meetings, or if you have rapid decision-making situations where you really need to get that information into the hands of decision makers quickly. Public engagement, this would be for dynamic visitor use maps, for example. We have a lot of situations where visitors are now getting extremely comfortable with their having mapping and quick responsive design on their smartphone. So in order to facilitate that need from the public, we're looking at this as a ideal sort of workflow and way to get that information into their hands quickly. Also, oftentimes, parks will get data requests from the public or from different agencies or research institutions or what have you, requesting data for their own particular use case. And we can now take the same exact data, put certain attributes into that information, and then say, okay, this information is available for the public to use. So we can take some of the load off the parks when it comes to those data requests. Another really cool thing about this particular workflow is it allows people to work from anywhere. If you're working with non-sensitive data, you can load that data up into ArcGIS Online and then work with that data anywhere. It really helps with kind of data sharing between offices as well as with public or different agencies and things. And then finally, for us at the regional office, this last piece, enterprise integration, is really a key feature. This helps us, at the regional office, push and pull data between the parks and the national offices, as well as supply the parks with some of the tools that we've been producing lately, like the Park Atlas, for example, where we're trying to, give you guys the tools that you need in a really, really easy user interface. Park Tiles is another product that we've been working on heavily, and then now the Park Mobile projects and things. So the idea is we have one centralized data set that's being used by lots of different people for lots of different reasons. Okay, so the way Esri's kind of designed this platform is that there's an app for everyone. So no matter what type of user you are of data, of geographic data, there's something that's going to work for you. It's designed specifically for you. So for those of us who are GIS specialists, we're really comfortable in a desktop mapping environment, an ArcMap or ArcCatalog environment. And for those of you who have migrated on to ArcGIS Pro, these are applications that are really designed for you to do your analysis and data manipulation. For field crews who are much less comfortable in that sort of environment, but need to be able to take that data out into the field, Esri has created a variety of applications. We're going to look at two here today. That's Collector for ArcGIS and Survey 123. And then finally, for managers, they're really interested in that kind of end result, right? They're going to make decisions based on the data that you're providing. So we can build custom web applications using the web app builder that's really customized and defined for a particular situation, for example, planning compliance. And then story maps are great. We can use geographic data and presentations and use story maps to really get our story about our parks across to the public. So again, working from one data set for a variety of different uses. Okay, so moving on to data collection. This is sort of the workflow. This is a really quick and dirty slide to kind of show how that's done. Basically, we push our data up into the cloud. We take that data, we put it in a web map, we share that web map with a group. Members of that group can then go out and edit that information or view it or query it or whatever. Once they get back into a connected environment, so back into Wi-Fi, they can sync that data back up, and then it's available for all those different use cases again. And again, if you want to just export it out as a shapefile or a feature class, it's available to do that. Okay, so now drilling down into one of the applications that we're going to highlight today, that's Collector for ArcGIS, and there's really two distinct components in the Collector workflow. First, the office component, and then the field component. So I really wanted to break those out to make sure everyone really understands those two parts. So the office worker, this would be either your GIS specialist or the person generally preparing the data to go out and do some field data collection. Basically, that person creates what we call feature services or feature layers that we push up into ArcGIS Online. We then take that data, put it in a web map, customize that web map, and then share that web map with the group. We invite members of the field team, for example, to be members of that group, and then those web maps are available for them to take out on their mobile devices. So then the field worker rolls into the office the next day and says, okay, I'm going to go over to a certain particular area. They go into that web map that was created. They look at the area that they're going to be working in that day. They go in, they just define what zoom level they want, and then they download that, making that map an object on their phone that they can then go out and work with in the field. So go offline, out into the field, collect a bunch of data, and then once they get back to the office or in a connected environment on Wi-Fi, they can sync that data back up into the cloud, making that information then available. That whole very long workflow that we used to have to deal with ArcPad and Trimble is now much more streamlined. This may seem like a lot of steps, but it's a lot faster than it used to be. So a couple pieces that I really wanted to highlight about the collector workflow. First, it's free. It's available for download from any of the app stores. It's available on iOS, Android, and Windows stores. So you can just go and download that, and then you've got the app on your phone ready to deploy. Anybody can, and it's free to download. The key piece of that is that when you go to fire up that app after it's installed, it's going to ask you who you are. It's going to ask you for your username and password. So you would put your NPS, ArcGIS Online username and password into that to that dialog, and then any of the maps that have been shared with you through groups or whatever are now available for you to use in that application. So that's the way it works. It's a different system than what we're traditionally used to. So with Collector, one big piece is that you can only collect, or you can collect all points, lines, and polygons. With the Survey 123 application, at this point, you can only collect points with that. So that's something really that you want to keep in mind when you're thinking of which application is right for your particular use case. So Collector does points, lines, and polygons, and Survey 123 only does points at this time. They may incorporate lines and polygons later. Again, it's a seamless integration with the ArcGIS platform. It's really, really a powerful application when it comes to updating geographic data. And now you can add photos as attachments. It's a really cool feature that we're actually going to look at later on in the demo here from Rocky. And again, it works in a disconnected editing environment. So you can take that data offline, go out where you have absolutely no cell phone coverage or Wi-Fi, collect data, and come back into the office and sync that data back up. Okay, so moving on to Survey 123. This is a somewhat newer application, and it's really much more form-based. The idea here is less about geography, though it does capture your location. It's really much more about forms. And so when you're thinking about, okay, I'm going to go out and do a BioBlitz, or I'm going to go out and collect forms on the same form every time, I'm going to collect information on the same form every time, this is when Survey 123 really becomes extremely useful. It's much the similar sort of two distinctive components, the office and field component, but they are a little bit different in how they're deployed. Survey 123 is much easier to deploy. Basically what you do is you log on at survey123.arcgis.com with your National Park Service ArcGIS Online account, and then you create a survey. Once you have finished that survey up, then you share it with your field working group, and that then becomes available to any member of that group to be able to go in and download. So that last piece is much the same, where a field worker would open up Survey 123, see the surveys that are available to them to download. They download that survey and off they go. But there isn't the zoom into your work area, select your zoom levels, because it's really not so much about the area that you're working in as it is the form that you're working with. So again, some of the main points is that it's available free from the App Store. It collects point data only. Photos are also able to be attached to that location, and it can work in a disconnected editing environment. One thing that's really, really great about Survey 123 that's less so about Collector is that because it's really form-based, it's really powerful in terms of generating complex reports. You can do a lot of really neat things with Survey 123, and we're just starting to scratch the surface. And Ian and Sean are going to kind of highlight a little bit of that today. Okay, so that really is a pretty high-level overview of some of the things, this sort of new web GIS and mobile mapping system. So at this point, I wanted to open it up to anybody who might have questions about this high-level approach and see what you guys think. So if you'd like to ask a question, go ahead and type it into the chat room, or raise your hand, and I can try to unmute people if you raise your hand. Okay, Ron Salz, I see that you had a question, and I'm trying to unmute you. But it looks like you've muted yourself. Does anyone else have any questions? Oh, Quayle, I see you. Okay, Quayle, I've unmuted you. Can we hear you?
Okay, I think I have my mute off as well. Just was curious if we can download these apps to our personal phones to collect data, or would we need an NPS-issued smartphone to be able to connect and upload and download the data to our computers, or is there some other workaround we can do from the private side?
Quayle, that's a great question. Yes, you can download them to your own personal devices, and you can, what you would do then at that point is you would log on with your personal device, but using your NPS ArcGIS Online account username and password. I actually was doing that just a couple weeks ago at a park, and it was working spectacularly. So if you're working with non-sensitive data, that data can go up into ArcGIS Online and then be available regardless of what sort of device you have. Now, if you're looking at sensitive data, that would be data that would have to go into what we call the portal. And the portal is inside the network, and at that point, you would need to have a government-issued device to access it. So really, that depends on whether you're dealing with sensitive or non-sensitive data. Does that help answer your question?
It does, but it brings up a follow-up question. What would be considered sensitive or non-sensitive data? I've heard before that some like our cultural arc sites and historic buildings or water sources. Is that right? Those are ones that would be prohibited?
That's exactly right, Quayle. Yeah, so cultural resources, especially in terms of archaeological resources, those would be considered sensitive. I kind of think about it as, I draw the line in the sand about what is FOIA exempted and what isn't. So because of the new rules when it comes to water resources and dams and things like that, that may be subject to Homeland Security issues, that data would be considered sensitive as well. Threatened and endangered species locations, that would also be considered sensitive. But the vast majority of facilities management type of stuff, even though it may not be data that you would want to share with the public, it's not necessarily sensitive. Does that make sense?
Gotcha. So most of our FMSS assets we'd be all right to use on our phone, except for water or anything that's historic.
That's correct. Yeah, pretty much any, well, not necessarily historic. There may be historic structures that aren't considered sensitive, and you would want to talk to your cultural resource professionals about that.
Gotcha. Okay, that's what I'll do. Thank you, Heidi.
Thanks, Quayle. Okay, I've got another question here. I'm going to pull up Lillian. Go ahead, Lillian, with your question.
We're having a hard time figuring out how to actually start creating a project in Collector. Is there any like real step-by-step guides for that yet?
You know, that's a good question. We have some stuff on our website, which is imrgis.nps.gov. You can go, let me see if I can pull that up here real quick and I'll show you guys. Okay, so this is our homepage for IMR GIS. This is our internal page that anyone inside the network has access to. So it's imrgis.nps.gov. From here, you can go to more, and I believe it is in training. Where's training? Oh, we've done a little bit of a change to this. Maybe resources. Here we go. Oh, here we go. Okay, so if you go to more, and then resources, and then over here to training. This will provide some information that we've put up and made available for different people, for anybody to look at. Anybody inside the network can see this. This is our old ArcPad workflow, and then this is the Trimble workflow. And then down here we have some information about Collector. We'll need to put up some more. We're still, the problem with the applications approach and trying to create these trainings is that Esri changes the stuff almost daily, and so we'll make something and then it almost becomes irrelevant within a month because they've moved a button or something like that. So there are, however, you can try our page, but if you're not getting your needs met there, you can go to training.esri.com and that information comes up then. Does that help answer your question, Lillian?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of training on the Esri page that you can use. Okay, Alan, go ahead. Alan Williams with your question. Alan, are you there? Okay. We'll try Alicio O'Day. Are you there?
Hi, I am.
Hi, how are you?
Just wondering, good. Just wondering if the this collector workflow is compatible with the version data. I've been having some issues standing that up.
It is, yeah, and that's a really technical thing that I would love to talk to you about either at the end of this presentation if we still have time, or we can talk about that offline. But yes, that is possible.
Sure. Thank
Cool.
you.
Thanks, Alicia, for your question. George Prothero, go ahead. Hi, George.
Am I there? Sorry,
Yeah,
I'm getting a lot of feedback. So I've just had the issue with collector disconnecting on my iPhone when I go into the field, when I leave the secure NPS network. I was wondering if that's a stability problem that has maybe been fixed.
George, let's take that one offline. That could be a situation with the government phone, I'm guessing, and dealing with networked Wi-Fi. That's a pretty specific use case that, yeah, we need to talk about, but it's going to depend. There's going to be a lot of depending things. Let's hold off on that one either until the end, or maybe we'll take that offline between you and I, okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, George. And I think we've got one more. Oh, yeah, one more question here from Kevin. Kevin Sisko, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I can. Hi, Kevin.
Okay, great. Hey, thank you. So our question is, I assume the Rocky guys have figured it out, but can you, from the field to uploading the information into the FMSS directly somehow?
Oh, yes. I'll definitely let Sean and Ian run with that. Let's let them present, and then perhaps they could address that towards the end of their presentation when we get back into discussion period, if their presentation doesn't already answer your question. Does that work?
Yep, excellent, thanks.
Great, thanks, guys. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to pass the presentership over to Sean Wignall. Let's see, Sean, go ahead when you're ready.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we can.
Okay. And are you seeing my first slide?
Yes, we are.
Okay, hi. My name is Sean Wignall, and I supervise the Asset Management Center here at Rocky Mountain National Park. And also on the phone is Ian Brighton. He's our condition assessment coordinator for the park and works in my office. So today we're going to just demo some of those things that Heidi was just talking about. I'll go through a quick intro of how our facility management processes and coincide with the mobile mapping we have going on. And then we'll do some demo from the iPad of our sign inventory program using Collector, our trail condition assessment process using Collector, and also a building field map, kind of proof of concept field map for our building staff using Collector, and as well as the condition assessment workflow using Survey 123. This is probably as good a time as any to answer that question about being able to integrate with FMSS, and the answer is no. At the moment, we don't have a straight interface from any Esri product into FMSS. Right now, it's all manually updated. So what we're doing right now is through the mobile mapping devices, we're updating our asset inventory and collecting new inventory, as well as performing condition assessments on all of our facilities, including buildings and trails, and going into water systems, et cetera. And that information that we collect in the field then feeds our facility management database, or FMSS as it's known, or Maximo as it's known to others. And within that facility management database, or FMSS, we create work orders, we keep the inventory up to date. So basically, like I said, the mobile mapping efforts feed our ability to collect information from the field and input it into the database. And I'll show you, obviously, examples of that here in a few slides. But the ultimate goal here in facilities is to get that project funding and to keep our facilities in good shape. So that's kind of how we run the program here. A lot more to FMSS, but I'm not going to go into it today. So just real quick, history of mobile mapping at Robo. I don't know that I would call this completely mobile mapping because we just got into smartphones and mobile devices, but Anyway, in 2007, we were using something called Mobile Maximo, run on a Panasonic Toughbook. We were using GPS photo link to merge our spatial information that we were connecting on Trimble units and then processing in what was called GPS photo link, which is now GeoJot Plus. In 2013, there was a flood here that we moved from the Toughbooks, and we deployed a handful of groups with Trimble Junos, and we were still using PhotoLink at the time. But it proved useful to do a rapid condition assessment of all the flood impacted areas of the park. GeoJot Plus came online around 2015, I guess. Someone may have better dates than that, but that's about when we started using it. And in order to use that, we deployed some Garmin Montera units, which are Android operating system that run GeoJot Plus, and then we were able to process through the core desktop application and then publish to AGOL for all those other web map items or deliverables. And then in 2016, we moved to Collector and deployed it. Well, what we found was on the Garmin Montera, the Android, the apps were quickly outpacing the operating system that the Monteras could run. So we thought, well, let's move to iPads and iPhones, start using Collector for the sign inventory, the trail condition assessments, and also the buildings field map. And then just recently, like I mentioned, we were using Survey 123 for our to conduct our building condition assessment. So real quick, here's our kind of a background on the sign inventory program. I started this probably in about 2008 using the GPS photo link and Trimbles and all that good stuff. And now, as to date, we're about just under 2,500 signs inventoried. And the nice thing about moving to Collector within this last year or 6 months for the sign inventory program is it's proved very useful for updating that baseline inventory that we'd already collected. We were finding that GeoJot is a bit cumbersome for updates. That's another discussion, but there are ways to update through GeoJot Plus. It's still a good tool. We just have found that Collector is a little better for real time. It takes there's not as much post processing for me to do with the data to serve it back up in a web map or something. So we really like that. They sync when they get back in the office, and we kind of can call it done with a little bit of QA/QC. And I'll go into that a little bit. But basically, what we have now, the signs that we have inventoried are signs that are fabricated and installed by our sign shop staff. We don't. What's not included in this is the regulatory signs. For our roads, those are taken care of through the Federal Highways RIP program as far as inventory. So right now we're at right under 2,500 signs, both backcountry, front country, and interpretive media. We just recently started collecting building signs and things like that to figure out our whole inventory. So I'm going to go do a quick demo. It was asked that I kind of look at or demo how we get a map offline on the device. I'll go through that process and then kind of show you a little bit of the functionality of the sign inventory program in Collector. This is probably the simplest. We're just using point. It's point feature services. Pretty simple stuff as far as the GIS background of this. So I'll jump right in. Okay, so I'll start by, is everyone seeing the iPad screen? Or Heidi, can you see that?
Yep, you're all set.
Okay. Okay, so real quick, so I have, just like Heidi mentioned, I have groups set up. Basically, groups in AGOL coincide with our work groups here. So this is the sign shop group. You can tell that by in the upper left-hand corner here. And what we did here is to try and manage, to allow for offline maps throughout the park. I have all these different ones available for download, and the iPad that the sign shop's using have all these areas offline ready. the device I'm using, I haven't offlined all these, but what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you how this one here, the Romo Sign Inventory program at the top, upper right, that's kind of the master map that all these were derived from. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to download this. I'm going to hit this little cloud icon here. It's going to take me to a base map option. And I guess I want to back up. To get to this point, I've already gone through all the office work that Heidi spoke of. You know, we published the data at AGOL, et cetera, made the map document, the map app in AGOL offline ready, and here we are. So I'm going to have to, what it asks you to do is choose a work area first. So this is basically saying how much of the park do we want to offline, where we're going to be working that day. And so you see that the blue box, anything outside of that blue box will not get pulled down to the device. So right now my extent is the park. So if I were to choose this as my work area, it'd be a huge file. So what I want to do is, let's say today I'm heading out to Marine Park Campground. Give it a minute to come in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in and say, okay, here's Marine Park Campground. You notice the tiles are getting more clear in the background, on the base map imagery. So that looks pretty good. So everything within that blue box, I'm going to offline. I'm going to download to the device. If I downloaded it in this direction, I'd be missing half of the campground. If that's clear for everyone. I can also zoom a little bit better. So what I'm going to do now is, once I've defined my work area, I'm going to define the details, and this is basically the zoom levels that you're downloading to the device. And as you zoom in, you'll see that the background imagery gets clearer. And so that's about the level I want to see when I'm out there, to be able to zoom in and differentiate between different signs. You'll notice at the bottom here, this is giving you an estimated size of your download, which is going to take up storage space on your device. So keep that in mind. In desk work area, I'm not going to exceed my limit, but I think it's about a gigabyte that you'll exceed the limit to download. So then I'm not going to do it right now, but simply you just click this download button in the upper right, and it would be offline ready. I can show you one right now. As soon as you offline ready something, you'll get a little on device banner on the top, or you can click on device, and I have one currently in this group on this device. I'll just continue on here. We'll go ahead and open this up. I'm going to be out in the field now. I'm going to edit. I want to let's see, where am I at? I am on Longs Peak Trail. Just want to show you an example. So if we wanted to collect a new backcountry, front country interp or building sign, I would simply click on this plus icon here, hit backcountry. This isn't going to work so good in this demo just because I'm outside of the, I'm not standing there at the moment, but if I was standing at my location, it would show me, and I would be able to, it would recognize acquire my location, no problem. So in this, just for demonstration purposes, I just put a point there. You'll notice it gives me my coordinate pair at the top. I've acquired the location. I'll assign it a sign number, and we have some domain values behind here, some things to help the sign shop out. These are all the attributes that we're trying to capture to help manage our sign inventory. Sign condition, things like that. We can also go ahead and take photos of this. I'm going to hit the add button, take a photo of my, and if that's a photo that you like to take, you go ahead and click this use photo down at the bottom right. What I've been having the sign shop folks do is go and click on this again after you take the photo and rename it with a date format of some sort, just so that, and I'll show you an example of this in a second, but that just puts a name instead of, collector auto names the photos, photo 1, photo 2, etc. So it's hard to really tell what you're looking at when you look at the attachment. But I'll show you an example here in just a second. Once I'm done with all the collection, I filled out all the information. I'll hit the submit button in the upper right. And since we're online right now, it automatically, oh, I'm sorry, this is the offline map. So this stored it on this device and is waiting to be synced once I get back into Wi-Fi. I want to show you one other thing here. This is a sign that is in the backcountry. It's been collected. It was collected, I think, in 2007. But since that time, the sign shop folks have gone up and updated the photo just to kind of capture a new condition. And ideally, they'd be filling out this information as well. I'll go ahead and, if you want to edit I'll show you how to edit an existing point. But to do that, you will click on this icon, the up arrow icon, hit edit, and then go ahead and, for instance, go ahead and populate that sign material as wood. I don't have the length or height, so I'm not going to put that in, but update the photo, etc. Go and set update. So now I should have 2 edits that I need to sync. But real quick, let me show you. This here is, I was looking back, or speaking of the progression here. This is this would be a GPS photo link watermark photo that was taken back in 2007. This is one really nice thing about GeoJot. Get a nice output. This is our location FMS SID, and then this is the actual asset number of that sign in the database. So that's really nice. So we are, by moving to collector, we're losing that capability or that, but what we are gaining, you'll see this is the new photo down here, and they dated it 9/20, so it was taken September 20th. Same sign, same post, and this is the condition basically 10 years later. So that's not bad, holding up pretty well. But kind of neat to archive that and be able to see those conditions change. It helps for forecasting, replacement, things like that. Okay, so now I'm done with my field collection. I'm heading back to the office. Now you'll see on device here, I have 2 edits to sync, and I'll simply hit the cloud icon, and being in a connected environment, it'll sync with the sync to the cloud and move to AGOL. And then what I also have behind all of this are web map applications where they can update, users can update for instance, in this case, update the sign number. We do manually assign numbers to each sign, and in the field, it's kind of hard to do that. It's easier to do it at your desktop. So here's just this quick screenshot of that desktop app. You'll notice all the sign numbers are labeled here, so they can, if they collect in between these 2 signs, they can assign a number to this one. It's basically increments of 10 is how we do this. So yeah, so that's the sign inventory program. I'm just going to keep moving right along here. Move on to the trail condition assessment program. This one's also using collector. We have about 350 to, depending on how you count it, to 365 miles of trails in Rocky. And all these get assessed on a 5-year cycle. So every 5 years, we are looking at these trails and capturing condition data. We are in our 3rd 5-year cycle now doing this. So we have about 12 years of data collected. Is that right? Yeah, something like that. And so the way we do this is we split these out into segments. So this image you're looking at here, this location number 32696, that is one trail location in FMSS. But for management purposes, we split that into 2 segments. So we have inventory items for instance, for this segment, and we also have deficiencies or work orders recorded for this segment as well as this segment. But it's all one trail. If that makes sense, I can answer any questions at the end of this in regards to that or offline. It's just how we have the FMSS set up here at Rocky. So again, I'm going to go ahead and I think rather than showing, let's see, I guess I'll go ahead and do the collector version of this as well. But it's a similar process to the sign inventory program. We have it set up a little bit differently. These are related point feature layers to the trail line. And I can show you that in the web map here in a second, but basically we go through the same process. We get the offline ready maps downloaded to the device, and then go out and perform the field assessment and come back and synchronize in the office. Let me go ahead and switch to the iPad. So the way this works, we go out and let's say we're up in Deer Mountain here. This is the Deer Mountain area of the park. And I'll click on the, ideally if I was standing out on this trail, it would locate me. Right now it's locating me down here in my office. But for the demonstration purposes, I'm gonna go ahead and click on this North Deer Mountain Trail. And what that does, it opens up, gives you the information about the trail. And by having this being a related feature point layer, we can go ahead and create a new work order. And you'll notice it put me back at my location, but really we'd be on the trail. We go ahead and fill out what the deficiency is related to. So in this case, I'm going to add some log retainer bars. I'm going to go through and go ahead and say 30 of them. Give it a length, a unit of measure, etc. We do have some standardized notes here, so we're adding these log retainer bars due to excessive braiding, for instance. We also have a free text notes field for anything that's not found in the drop-down list. The nice thing about the relationship here is that by adding this new, we bring over our location number and the segment number that this is on. So this is FMS ID number 32564, and it's on segment 3. So when we look at this in a table format, this data, we can make sense of where we're writing our work orders to. There is a desktop or office workflow. Once we create the work order in FMSS, we're populating it back to this feature service so that it is documented here. And if management or the trails manager needs to look and know what work order to report to, they can come to the map and find the associated work order. Same thing with the picture. We can go ahead and take pictures. Same idea with assign inventory. I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. I'm not going to upload that. So that's kind of the collector portion of the trail condition assessment program.
Hey Sean, it's Ian here. I'm back in the office. So I just wanted to chime in and mention that the picture piece for me has been super key to have pictures from past condition assessments to come up, and you can actually get a sense of, for instance, like how bad an area is eroding. If we have a photo from 5 years previous and we're standing right in that same spot, it's been a real eye-opener to see potentially how severe the problem is, and if the erosion is occurring rapidly, well then maybe we need to prioritize that project. If it seems to be stable, certainly keep the work order in there as deferred maintenance or to capture the condition of the trail, but maybe it's not as high of a priority. So that's been a game changer for me, using collector in the field as opposed to just collecting points with GeoJot.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Ian. That's a good point. Yeah, this kind of puts all the information in the hands of the assessor, so that's a great plus. So here we are in the web map app. I just really wanted to quickly show how this looks for the user. But basically, we're looking at. Sorry, if I click on the trail here, and I go down to the related table, these are all the work order points associated with that trail segment. Really handy, easy to navigate. We can go in and look at what that item is. I'm sorry, it's lagging a little bit here. Here we go. One thing we did include is I added the GPS metadata field to this just to kind of manage our accuracy since we are using devices. We do have a We do have an arrow that we use here to get a bit higher accuracy if needed, but basically what you're looking at here is the iPad Mini 4 accuracy. We are capturing the coordinate pair as well from the GPS metadata. And then here is that photos that Ian was talking about. So this is a new photo, 2017, or I'm sorry, I guess I'm not sure. We should probably deploy that renaming of the photo to this process as well. That is one downside to the photos in Collector. But yeah, I just wanted to show you the web map app. We also, we get the table view here, which is really nice, that we can download to CSV and then use for planning or export to management, etc. But in the sake of time, I'm going to keep moving. Let me see if I'm going to go back to the presentation. So the Buildings Field Map app, lastly, this is used by our buildings staff, obviously. And so here at Rocky, we have over 400 operational buildings that totaling 70,000 square feet of floor space. Created this field map app to allow the staff to update and add building asset information. It allows them to view floor plans, manuals, and photos while they're in the field, at the unit or at the building. The way this one's built out, we have the footprint layer, published layer here, and we have what I'm doing. This is working completely in tables, so these are all just related tables to that polygon featured class. And these are all the items that the staff can view and update. So there's a field notes table where they can collect work completion. There's this was really started to help out our HVAC folks to track preventive maintenance activities. So we went in and asked the staff, what do they need? What do they need when they're standing in front of a furnace? And I'll show you what we came up with. But a lot of the attributes that we're collecting are based on their needs, not necessarily FMSS. And so what we do as FMSS staff, we take what they've collected and glean from that and input that into the database, put it in the right place, so to speak. But really, this is for their use, and then we just take what we need from it to create work orders and etc. So we have this is all the HVAC stuff all the way down. We working on a paint log, which to track the exterior and interior painting for all our buildings. And then these two last tables, these are exports from FMSS. So the asset detail is the inventory, meaning what is in the building, all windows, doors, the boiler record, etc., roof record, install dates. That's all contained here in the asset detail. And then we also expose the work order information report from FMSS on their device so that they know what work orders to report to, report their labor to when they're actually doing maintenance. Okay, I think let me jump into, I'm going to go back to Collector. I'm going to change to my buildings group. And I'm just going to show you the online version of this field map. So let me just go in and I'll show you what I'm talking about here.
While we're waiting for this to load, we should point out that one of our limiting capabilities is our connectivity speeds. We are finding that having really nice connectivity speeds would be helpful, but we roll with it out in Estes Park.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have had this loaded before. Okay, here we are. So I'm just going to go through a quick example. I'm going to click on this building. This is a quarters unit. So when the user clicks on the polygon, and that's what I like about these polygons, it's really easy to move around the map sometimes it's hard on devices to click the points and things like that. Anyway, so here we are at quarters 47. Up top, kind of expose some of the FMSS information, condition index, the deferred maintenance costs, how big the building is, and then its real property coordinate pair. And then you'll see here, here's where we see all those related tables that I was mentioning. We can either view existing field notes or create new ones. Same thing with furnace, boiler, generic HVAC, paint log. And then this work order information, these are all of the work orders in FMSS associated with that building, as well as the asset inventory detail. These are all of the records associated with that building. Let me show you the furnace record real quick. This is what our building staff has been updating. So we took what they, like I mentioned before, we took what they needed and put it into this process here. So here's all the information that they wanted. It's very comprehensive. It tracks the maintenance items or the date, last service date. It also allows for the opportunity for photos. And we're working on uploading or making available all the O&M manuals to the furnaces and boilers so that the staff have those available. One thing I'm asking the staff to do is take a picture of the nameplate so that they can verify the manufacturer serial, any other information that the asset record needs in FMSS. Here's an example of the manual that's loaded. It is model specific. So this is an effort just to find these digitally, but seems to be working. And then I was wanting to give you a quick view. I just clicked on this apartment, the 430 apartment. Here's an example of field notes. Here they're telling me that in March they replaced the siding on the east and west ends, and I can go into FMSS and update that accordingly. The other neat thing I found very useful is their paint log. We get cyclic paint funds every year, and so we're required to report back to that. And I use this paint log to part of the completion reports and also where to close out the work orders. So this was in an Excel spreadsheet from years ago, and so I took that Excel sheet, put it into the table. So you'll see there's 2 entries from 2015, and then this third one is their latest entry from 2017. And it has a lot of good information for the staff, all the way down to what type, the product and product type of trim paint that was used back in 2015, so they can match that easily. Okay, how are we doing on time?
You're getting close, Sean, but go for it.
Okay. Last thing I wanted to do was show you real quick the survey 123 for the condition assessment. Let me bring that up here. There's just screenshots of that, but I'll show it to you live here real quick. So as Heidi was mentioning, when you open up survey 123 on your device, you have all of the available forms available to you. There's a lot of folks are active in this, but these here are kind of the ones I've been developing, and these are only I can see these, or the group can see these. These shouldn't be available to everyone. I just put out a word of caution of how you share these up, because you don't want the whole park surface populating your forms. But anyhow, so obviously we've gone through some few versions. We land on version 3 here, and that's what's on this device at the moment. So I'm sorry, I'll back up. So these are 3 that I have downloaded to the device. This the MPS annual fire prevention form. That's our safety inspection form. But what I'm going to talk about right now is the condition assessment form. And it's really easy to use. It's a smart form. So to start collecting some new information, all that I am requiring from the staff is this building number, so our quarters number. So I'm going to type in building 1000, hit done. Now what this does is you'll notice it just populated location number and the location description. That's a background, that's in a background CSV file that basically creates some domain values, or lack of a better word, I guess, for that, how that works. But that's really nice function of this. The other functionality of these smart forms is that down here at the asset type, I kind of split this up by trade. So let's say there's an electrician going in to do the assessment. We get one pick list for the electrical deficiency. Or if there's an architect going in, architectural, there's a different pick list for architectural type. Fill out quantity, unit of measure. And the real important box here is the description of the corrective action. We need enough to build a cost estimate out of. One nice thing is that you can dictate. Well, when I sneeze, that you can dictate. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. It works if I slow down, I promise. And then for each entry here, you can do 4 images, limited to 4. But the nice thing is, without exiting this form, this is on what's called a repeat. I can go ahead and hit this plus button down here, and it's going to give me a new blank entry without ever leaving the form. So this is stacking, basically stacking entries. And I have a new set of 4 images that I can take. And as Heidi mentioned, this isn't a map-based necessarily application, but it does collect your geo point, and you can move that around, auto move it. Yeah, and I think that's it. Okay, last thing I want to do, I know I'm running out of time. Last thing I want to do here is just show you real quick an example of the report that comes out of this. So from survey 1, 2, 3, this, I customized the template form. And the nice thing about this output is that for those of you that work in AGOL, it's hard to get, or even in any of these apps, it's hard to get the images out to a local, under like a local network or something. So by customizing this report, we're able to export the images in a PDF form, or in it's actually a Word document, or then we convert it to PDF. But it's really nice usability and way to manipulate and find your data. So that's all I have. Running right to the last of the hour. Ian or I can be typical government email, and there's our phone numbers if you need us for any questions. Okay.
That's great, Sean. Thank you so much. And Ian, you guys have done such great work up there. We did have one question that came in from Anna San, and Anna, go ahead. Anna, are you there? Okay, she did type it, so I can actually read it. Here we go. So Anna San has a question. Do you have any incidences where there are 2 signs occupying the same location, where the signs are stacked upon each other or on a pole or something? Do you duplicate the data point associated with it, or leave it as a single sign? Or do you leave it as a data point with the comments field stating which signs are present? Basically, how do you deal with 2 signs on one location?
Yep. So there is a field in there, a number of signs. So basically, it's one record per post, or per set of posts is how we've kind of approached it. And then there is a way to say whether there's 1 or 2 signs, number of signs on the post. I have it defaulted to 1, but if there is 2 signs on a single post, then that's how we deal with it. And then the photo obviously captures the orientation. Does that answer?
Okay. Yeah, I think that answers the question. If anybody else has a question, go ahead and raise your hand or type it into the chat box. Oh, Reese. Okay, Reese Hurst, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
All right. So with all of your data, are you running this all as hosted feature services on ArcGIS Online, or do you eventually have them connected to a file geodatabase or enterprise geodatabase, I guess, on a server somewhere?
Yeah, no, this is something we've been talking about, and Jeff is on the line, our GIS specialist here, but no, right now they're all hosted feature services. Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. We're working on a solution.
Jeff, I just unmuted you if you wanted to speak to that at all, so feel free to jump in here at any time.
Yeah, I'm here. We are
go ahead.
trying to work towards some sort of enterprise solution. We hadn't had that set up in the past, but it sounds like with talking with people at WASO and even IMR GIS, the best way to do it right now is to continue on with the hosted feature services, because that's where ESRI is really moving toward. And then you can run scripts to back all of that data up from your feature services that are hosted online and bring them down to their file geodatabase or SDE or whatever it is you need to. So we're slowly working toward that here at Rocky, but we're not quite there yet.
Okay, the other question I have is, as you move forward, everything that's in ArcGIS Online is in Web Mercator and thus WGS84, but according to Esri, their best practices for getting ready for the new 2022 datum that's coming down the pike, still a ways off, but they've, at the Esri conference, I talked to Melita Kennedy, who's Esri's projection and datum guru, and she had said that we should be getting all of our data into NAD 83 2011 as the best practice for getting ready for that new datum. And so I don't know if you guys have you even started thinking about that yet?
This is Jeff. I'm definitely thinking about that, and I've had to do that with all of our cultural data that we put on the portal, because we definitely don't want to use WGS84 for that. So my solution has been to create a tile package, get that up there, and then start using the local or the NAD 83 datum and then the local coordinate system. But yeah, it's a challenge, because when I first started using ArcGIS Online, I was just defaulting to the Web Mercator, and the more I work with it, the more I hate it, quite frankly, because as you probably know too, you do not want to use Web Mercator for measuring distance or area. And ArcGIS Online kind of corrects for it, but as soon as you bring it to a desktop, you're going to have problems. So yeah, that's another big project we're just going to be migrating toward here at Rocky to make sure everything's in compliance with the new datum.
So you've been making your own base maps that are in NAD 83 2011 for use with ArcGIS Online.
Yes, you can do that.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay, it looks like Anna San, are you there again? Perhaps a follow-up question, are you there? Anna San, are you there? Thought I heard you. Okay, guys, well, that's it. Anna, if you have a question, feel free to send me an email. Anybody else? You can access Sean or Ian at the information on the screen, or you guys can find me at IMRGIS. IMRGIS.nps.gov, and of course on Bison Connect. So thanks everybody for your help and participation, and wish you all best of luck.